Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. The time on that clock says 7 o'clock. So let's call this meeting of the County Board to order. It's Thursday, May 19th, 2011. I would ask everybody to turn off or turn down your cell phones, please. Roll call.
Esri? Here. Holderfield?
Here.
James?
Here.
Jay?
Here.
Jones?
Here.
Kurtz?
Here.
Langenheim?
Here.
McGinty?
Here.
Michaels? Mosier?
Here.
Nudo?
Here.
O'Connor?
Here.
Petrie?
Here.
Quisenberry?
Here.
Richards?
Here.
Rosales?
Here.
Sapp?
Here.
Schrader?
Yes.
Alex?
Here.
Ammons?
Here.
Anderson?
Here.
Benzel?
Here.
Berkson?
Here.
Betts?
Here.
Carter?
Here.
Coert?
Present.
Weibel?
Here. We have a quorum. Tonight's prayer is a springtime prayer. I am but a tiny seed which thou hast sown in the soil of thy love, and caused to spring forth by the hand of thy bounty. This seed craveth, therefore, in its inmost being for the waters of thy mercy and the living fountain of thy grace. Send down upon it from the heaven of thy loving kindness that which will enable it to flourish beneath thy shadow and within the borders of thy court. Thou art he who watereth the hearts of all that have recognized thee from thy plenteous stream and the fountain of thy living waters. Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Would the clerk read the notice of the meeting, please?
Notice is hereby given that a regular meeting of the County Board, Champaign County, Illinois, will convene on May 19, 2011, 7 o'clock p.m. in the Lyle Shields Meeting Room, Brookings Administrative Center, 1776 East Washington Street, Urbana, Illinois, in said county for the purpose of allowing and ordering payment of claims against the county, receiving and acting upon reports of committees, and such other matters as may be brought before said meeting, which said meeting shall continue in session from day to day until the completion of said business.
Move adoption.
Moved by Mr. Betts.
Second.
Second by Mr. Rosales. Discussion. See none, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Seek approval of the agenda and the addendum. Moved by Mr. Carter. Second by Mr. Langenheim. Discussion. Mr. McGinty.
I'd like to suggest, because we're paying Mr. Scavato by the minute, that we move him up on the agenda so that we can get him on the road back to St. Louis as quickly as possible.
So you move that basically right before Highway and
Yes,
Transportation.
please.
I'll make that a formal motion. Okay, with a second by Mr. Nudo. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Any other changes? Mr. Kurtz?
Can we move the redistricting commission addendum up to the front of the, we have a lot of people here who can speak to it.
Well, let's have a little discussion on that. I mean, I've heard various comments on whether to move the map up or not, because it will probably take a lot of time. Not everybody's here for the map. Some people are. Any comments on that? Ms. Ammons?
I would just say that what we have...
A little louder, closer to the mic, please.
Boy, that's uncommon for me. We don't have a lot on here, is what I'm suggesting prior to the map. So...
Well, we have Lincoln Avenue agreement. We've got the MPA, well, the MPA contract. And
I guess I'm
the agenda's
surprised. That would take
thin,
us a
but
long
it packs a lot of punch.
I don't oppose if we...
Mr. James.
I would just say that's going to take up a lot of time and discussion on that, so I'm with Carol. I think we ought to move forward with everything else as it is on the agenda.
So but of course, we leave MPA at the beginning.
Yes.
Is that the general consent of the body?
Yes.
Any objection? Then we'll go with that. Further discussion on the agenda. Okay, see none, all approve?
Aye.
All oppose? Motion carries. We just have the date and time of our next regular meeting is Thursday, June 23rd, 2011 at 7 o'clock in this meeting room. We do have cow meetings planned for next month. Okay, we don't have the schedule all yet because of a pending agenda item tonight. So well, as soon as we vote on that, we'll have a better idea of when we'll be meeting next month. Consent agenda. Move approval by Mr. Alex, second by Mr. Betts. A roll call. No, sorry, any items which you wish to take off? The consent agenda. Seeing none, roll call, please.
Esri?
Yes.
Holderfield?
Yes.
James?
Yes.
Jay?
Yes.
Jones? Kurtz?
Yes.
Langenheim?
Yes.
McGinty?
Yes.
Mosier?
Yes.
Nudo?
Yes.
O'Connor?
Yes.
Petrie?
Yes.
Quisenberry?
Yes.
Richards?
Yes.
Rosales?
Yes.
Sapp?
Yes.
Schrader?
Yes.
Alex?
Yes.
Ammons?
Yes.
Anderson?
Yes.
Benzel?
Yes.
Bergson?
Yes.
Betts?
Yes.
Carter?
Yes.
Coert?
Yes.
Weibel?
Yes, motion carries. Next, we have public participation. Ms. Patricia LaRoe.
Yes, my name is Patricia LaRoe. I live at 1406 Carroll Avenue, Urbana, Illinois. I've lived there 44 years. I cannot believe since 1979 there's been nothing done to my district. Mr. Carter has tried hard to get street lights and something done out there. I have other board members sitting here and can't do anything. Their hands are tied. I think they ought to merge everybody, and everybody has to work in all districts, not just one district. Then maybe something will get done. I pay $40-some a month for street lights, nothing. For myself only, for security when I come in at night. No pole lights. Sanitary sewer done in 1977, nothing done since. And I think it's ridiculous to think we're sitting on a county board with 27 members. They're wanting to cut it to 22. 27 can't even do it. What are we going to do with 22? You call zoning, they don't care. You call this one, they don't care. It's out, you need to get an attorney. I'm getting tired of saying I need to get an attorney for everything that happens in the Carroll edition. Now, if something isn't done, they need to do something, or I'm going to annex everything to the city of Urbana and see what goes on then. Because I think it's ridiculous to think we are sitting here with 27 board members, nobody can do anything, but yet you want to get rid of so many, put in 22. And I think something needs to be done in my neighborhood with streetlights, new walks. There's a handicap place in my neighborhood. They have to walk in the street. It's absolutely ridiculous. Go out and look sometime. Neighbors are tearing up fences. There needs to be some rules and regulations on neighbors of what they can do and what they can't do. And if they can't do them, then don't let them do them. When I got a garage, I had to go before Zoning Board of Appeals. I'll bet they don't do it today. So my question is, I think something needs to be woke up to. And I'm getting tired of coming to board meetings, and I've been here several times, and nothing's been said, nothing's been done. It's a over-the-head counter, and I'm not taking no more over-the-heads. Thank you.
Augustus Hullman.
Hello, my name is Augustus Hallman. Most of you may not know me, but I'm one of the members of the Redistricting Commission, and I just wanted to reiterate how excited I was to be a part of this process and how I feel that we hopefully accomplished the job that you tasked us to do, and I'm hoping that in tonight that you see a map that is more pleasing to you. Thank you.
Reverend Jerome Chambers.
Good evening. I am Jerome Chambers.
608 West Green in Champaign. Today's headlines, not exciting to me to know that someone would oppose a 102-year-old organization's efforts to include everybody. Whoever drew the map, I guess that person should be applauded. But as far as the Farm Bureau is concerned, the Farm Bureau is really concerned about the Farm Bureau, not the underrepresented or the underserved community. Now that Latinos and Hispanics are the prevailing majority, African Americans no longer hold that title. But when you start to talk about majority, minority, we have to be realistic. We're living in 2011. Minorities have scratched, fought, screamed, and kicked even when they were lynched, just to be considered equal with everyone else. It may not mean much to some people, but it means a lot to a lot of people. When you start talking about elections and who can get elected, you look at where people live, you look at the tax situation today, and I'm sure everyone in here says, I pay too much taxes. Well, what about the underserved? What about the people who have virtually no voice? Well, I think it came out in the American Revolution. Taxation without representation is tyranny. It's 2011. I have more in-depth comments, which will probably be in the News Gazette tomorrow, because I let them know that I would be at this meeting tonight. And I want you to know that the NAACP, even though it is called the National Association for the Advancement of Colored People, for some people it means the National Association for the Advancement of Certain People. Thank you.
Mr. L. Jamal.
Good evening. This is my first time in appearance before the county board. I'm thankful to be able to speak a few words, but it is also my first time participating in a democratic process of redistricting. And how I looked at this was very simple. It is our opportunity for the last 10 years to see how far we've come with being fair. That's how I looked at this. In other words, can we all come to the table and make a fair decision in which the most people who are affected can receive the highest respectability? I think when we do that, we can be proud of ourselves. So I want to thank you for the process. I hope that you have diligently made the observation and with the most consideration for all of the people. Thank you.
Jerry Harding.
With the show of hands, how many of you carry a...
Point of order, we cannot interact with the public participation.
Thank you. How many of you carry a photo of someone you love in your wallet or purse? Imagine now that 8 hours has gone by, and it's 3 a.m. in the morning, and there's a knock at your door. The coroner, Champaign County, Dwayne Northrup, and his staff, Steve Tooney, Tracy Brookshire, David Steinbaugh Jr., Steve Skinner, and Steve Elkins knows that when you open that door, your world will be changed forever. Death notification is just one duty that the coroner's office completes. They investigate and determine cause of death. They issue death certificates. They maintain death records. They respond to deaths during mass disasters. They identify the unknown who have died. They conduct inquests and complete autopsies. These duties are not optional, but what is optional is whether a coroner's office chooses to inform families of their opportunity to donate their loved one's tissue. Most of you have heard of organ donation, your heart, liver, kidney, lungs, pancreas, small intestine, but only 1% to 2% of all Americans will be able to donate organs because of the type of death. Tissue donation can occur with a brain death, but also with a cardiac death, which is how most of us are going to die. Our heart will stop first. The gift of tissue is heart valves, bones, skin, vein, tendons, and corneas. The gift of tissue can help 25 to 50 other people, and 1.5 million Americans every year receives a gift of tissue. Since last June of 2010, the Champaign County Coroner's Office has made a commitment to educate families about tissue donation when their loved one dies outside of a hospital. Remember that 3 a.m. knock on the door. And to date, just not even quite a year, the Champaign County Coroner's Office has had 9 tissue donors with approximately 450 Illinois and nationwide residents receiving tissue transplants. The Musculoskeletal Transplant Foundation, a nationwide tissue bank, wishes to express appreciation to the Champaign County Board for your support of the coroner's office. And at this time, the Musculoskeletal Transplant Foundation would like to recognize Dwayne Northrup and his staff for his support of bereaved families and also tissue donation. And he's playing taxi driver dad tonight, and he has his daughter Peyton here too.
Can you say a word? Sure. I just want to thank Jerry from Mrs. Harding from MTF for recognizing my staff and office. Many times as a county board, you get to see me and hear from me and what my office does, but rarely do you get to hear about my employees. And really, this award goes to my employees because most of the time when they're out there dealing with the families, they're making the calls and putting in the extra hours that they are to make sure tissue donation can happen. So again, I thank Jerry for recognizing my office and my staff, and I thank you for giving us the opportunity to do that as well. Thank you. Thank my daughter for coming with me as well. She thought I had a meeting.
Is there further public communication, or public participation? See none, we'll close that. Going on to communications from the board. Ms. Amons.
We just wanted to announce for all the board members and the public who knew Mr. Bob Kirshner, whose memorial service is tomorrow at the I Hotel at 4 p.m., that they are welcome. He's helped so many people in this community. I got to know him because of the activism work that I did and do in the community, and so I would encourage those who can make it to make it in support of his wife, Miss Jerry Kirshner. That's tomorrow at 4 p.m. I Hotel.
Other communications or announcements? All right, seeing none.
Mr. Chairman, is speakers on? Are the speakers on?
Yes, they are. And we have some light speakers. So for the benefit of our audience, please speak closer to the microphone or perhaps a little bit louder. Okay, next is seek approval of the minutes of April 21st, 2011, regular meeting study session, the meeting of April 21st, and the study session and public hearing of April 26th, 2011.
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Rosales, second by Mr. Kurtz. Discussion. See none, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Next, I seek approval of resolution number 7730. Mr. Betts.
I move adoption.
Second.
Mr. Chair, would you
Go ahead, please.
I move adoption of resolution number 7730. This is a resolution approving the proclamation designating the week of May 15th as National Police Week. Whereas the Congress and President of the United States have designated May 20th as Police Officers Memorial Day and the week in which May 15th falls as National Police Week, and whereas the members of Champaign County Sheriff's Office play an essential role in safeguarding the rights and freedoms of the citizens of Champaign County. And whereas the Champaign County Sheriff has submitted the proclamation designating the week of May 15th as National Police Week to the County Board in honor of those police officers, therefore, it is resolved by the Champaign County Board that the proclamation designating the week of May 15th as National Police Week is hereby approved.
Second by Ms. Holderfield. Discussion. See none, all in favor? Aye. All opposed? Motion carries. Seek approval of resolution number 7731. Mr. Sapp.
I move resolution number 7731. Resolution approving the proclamation designating the week of May 1st as National Correctional Officer Week. Whereas the Congress and the President of the United States have designated the week of May 1st as National Correctional Officer Memorial Week, and whereas the members of the Champaign County Sheriff's Office play an essential role in the criminal justice system, and whereas the Champaign County Sheriff has submitted the proclamation designating the week of May 1st as National Correctional Officer Week to the Champaign County Board in honor of those correctional officers, now therefore be it resolved by the Champaign County Board that the proclamation designating the week of May 1st as National Correctional Officer Week is hereby approved, and I so move.
Second by Mr. Carter. Discussion. I just want to point out that tomorrow there is a ceremony honoring, it's actually Peace Officers Memorial Day in front of the courthouse. Starts at 12 o'clock. It lasts about 35 minutes. So if you can make it, it'd be great. Further discussion. See none, all approve. Aye. All opposed. Motion carries. Okay. Next up is Nursing Home Quarterly Report. Mr. Scavato. And Ms. Mary Ellen. Who's going to lead the show here?
I'm going to go first.
Okay.
I just want to say a few words. Is this on? I'm the chair of the Champaign County Nursing Home Board, and I just want to reassure you that the board continues to work and work hard on all the issues facing the nursing home. And I want to acquaint you with some of the issues that are national issues, and they're the same issues we're facing. But as I've read the literature, I was actually felt better that we were facing the same issues, but it's kind of the best of times, the worst of times, that we are not facing any issues that are not being faced nationally. One is increased rules and regulations. And I think in terms of nursing homes, there's no more important area that we need adequate rules and regulations, but I have to admit, sometimes I am baffled by some of these rules and regulations that we get cited on or that come through in some of the cases. But again, that's facing everyone. Increased burden of documentation and paperwork. Whenever you're going to have more rules and whenever you're going to have more regulations, you're going to have more documentation. I actually think that's good. I think documentation in any medical setting is good. That tells us what's going on. But that, again, takes time, and sometimes time away from patients, so you have to be careful with your staffing. Treating increasingly difficult patients. That certainly is nationwide. And some of the literature I was reading, and Mike, you may know this more than I, county nursing homes seems to get some of the most difficult patients in terms of behavior. I don't know if you want to comment on that at some point. That behaviorally, we are going to get, the private homes can pick and choose, and we are there to take whoever comes to our door. And what's happening is we're getting, the county homes across the country are getting more and more difficult patients. And lastly, maintaining a high census. And I would say that in the last 3 years, we really have worked hard at maintaining and establishing and maintaining good relationships with the local hospitals and the providers, so that, again, we can have an adequate census and an adequate mix of patients, so that, again, we can basically pay the bills. So with that, I'll hand it over to Mike.
Okay, thanks very much. Can you hear me okay out there? Okay, so some of you may be new to the lingo, so we'll take a quick review. And the types of patients that we're seeing, in addition to private pay, the takeaway from Medicare is that a prior hospital stay is required. Right now it's 3 days. With Medicare B, we don't see as much of that as Medicare A. Everybody in the facility is eligible for that. And Medicaid is the usual public aid assistance program. Now, what I've done on this slide is compare the volume this period versus the same period last year. If you take a look at last year over here, you can see that volume has built up. We were building up our volume. For the quarter, it averaged 185.1. And when we added in March and April, we were still building, and it was pretty good. We brought it up to 188.7. We finished last year right at about 195, which was our goal. Now this year, you can see that we maintained census early on, and we had a pretty good average. But the last couple of months, it's dropped off. Now we've still got a pretty good average. It's not where we want it, but March and April have tailed off, and that's something that I am concerned about. We did have several periods last year where we were not meeting our goal on census. And it's very common in this business to have ups and downs. Nothing ever goes on a straight line basis. It is something that we are watching. In terms of payer mix, last year, private pay was running at 38.5, pretty close this year. And the only reason I put April up there is because we had a significant increase, I would say, in private pay mix for April. We didn't have the volume, but we had the percentage. Medicaid is up a bit, and Medicare is running about the same. So our mix seems to have settled in. And if we are sensitive to anything on the mix, it's this one here, that we're totally dependent upon activity at the hospitals, which right now is down. So you'll see that Medicaid continues to dominate life at Champaign County Nursing Home, and that's to be expected. That's part of the mission. But you'll notice that we're down about 7% in Medicare. Last year we were running about 95 patients on a daily basis. This year we're running 102 residents, so we're up. That math is about 7%. And if you do this math here with Medicare, the biggest change is we're down about 50%. Not quite, but it's almost half. And we're doing better on payment with Medicaid, but we don't have enough cases. And I'd like to see both improve. You are still running a wonderful dementia program. It is virtually full almost all the time. And if we do have a significant weakness, it's we don't have enough of dementia beds. Private pay is up a little bit, but basically running about the same. If you run right to the bottom, now all of these numbers are going to be in millions. So this is like 1,000,001, or this is 1,166,000. And this is our total volume from patient services, resident services, without any subsidies or miscellaneous revenues. And you can see that this year we're about 400,000 ahead, I mean, that's good, but expenses are also ahead of where we want them to be. So you can see what's happened here is that revenue built up, and we've seen revenue stabilize at this level. Now, this is a short month. There's only 28 days in February, but we were down here because census was down. And April's results are preliminary right now, but that's also down, again, because of census. If you go back and look at where we were running, when we hit our occupancy, we were running in this area, 1.2. We've had some months we were at $1.3 million. That's a good trend. With Medicaid, if you go to the meat of this at the bottom right, we're up 140,000 over last year. Again, all of these numbers are in millions. And there are changes, small changes, month to month. But the takeaway on this one is that Medicaid revenue has been up over last year, same time period. On Medicare, even though we're down, if you take a look, we're down in census, we're up 288,000 in revenue over last year. We'll talk a little bit more about that later. You can see the comparisons month to month. The December, we were better than last year. January, same thing. February, same thing. March, about even. Overall, up almost 300,000. That's very positive. If we had the volume, it would be even better. Private pay, Champaign County has always had a pretty good private pay mix, and it'd be nice to have it better. But you can see over here we're down 174,000 over last year. And the changes, there's a significant change. December, not as bad in January, a little bit better in February, and significant change in March. So we're in very similar position this year to last year. You have a high break-even point with a large facility with new costs, high depreciation levels, and volume is everything. When our volume is not high, we struggle. It is quite possible, and I am guarded in this, but it's quite possible that we will see a resolution to the intergovernmental transfer program in June. Signals are very, very positive out of the Department of Health Care and Family Services. That means that additional Medicaid cash that is due back to October of 2009 will be coming to Champaign County, and moving forward, we'll be seeing an increase in our Medicaid rate. That's not to say that there are not challenges in Illinois with the Medicaid program. You're all aware that cuts have been proposed. It's entirely possible that rather than have cuts, we will experience payment delays. And I say pray for the IGT, because with the intergovernmental transfer program, counties continue to get paid on a preferential basis. So while the rest of the facilities in the state might be experiencing significant payment delays, we're being paid within 30 days. So we'll see how this shakes out. Medicare, we mentioned before, it's down from last year. We remain hospital dependent, and when the hospital volume activity is down, we do not see the cases. This is a big deal on the Medicare per diem. With better coding, we're running about $530 this year on a daily basis. Last year, we were running $435. That's an excellent development. Now, it costs us more to generate the revenue because we deliver more therapy, but nonetheless, this is a very positive development, and it's a huge revenue center for us. We are expecting moving forward that government reimbursement is going to be flat. Right now, that's more of a budgetary consideration for next year, so for our purposes tonight, it's a heads up for what to expect down the road. Dementia seems to be locked in here at 70% Medicaid, and that is another good indication that if we ever had the money to do anything on a capital basis, it would be to expand the dementia program. Highly, highly needed. This graph takes expenses back to, where'd we start? June of '08, right around in here. And you can see that the trend line is pretty much stabilized on expenses. Variation was pretty big around the trend line, but now it's been locked in, and we're going to continue to work on that. That has stabilized, but we think we can make some improvement. We are continuing to control our expenses. The biggest thing we can do is flex our staffing. Salaries and benefits, is no surprise in any healthcare organization, constitute the largest expense. We are making dedicated efforts to beef up our nurse supervision. Along the way, we have made some changes to our agency usage, our contract agency, the use of outside staff, independent contractors, if you will, is down significantly over last year. April appears to be one of the lowest months that we've seen. We are still far too dependent on it. And we've, in the early months of a renegotiated contract and purchasing arrangement for agency services, and you're used to the fact that we pay our own people a certain amount, and when you hire agency, you pay them quite a bit more. We've managed to narrow that gap to where we're paying agency on the average slightly more than we're paying our own people. That's a major accomplishment. One of the problems this year is that we've had more vacancies in the nursing department. That's going to show up down here in professional fees, where we have to replace certain clinical specialty positions. Staffing shortages really create large swings in cost, which we are experiencing, and it's no surprise to you. Your food and your food costs are up, so are ours. Energy costs are up. Benefits continue to be a significant expense, and particularly with nursing, our professional fees are up this year. A lot of this is not news. We're still working. We are virtually there to full accrual accounting. We've got the property tax being allocated monthly. We've got these expenses being recognized in our routine monthly P&L. We're curious about repaying an outstanding liability to the state, the Medicaid program. And under what we're hearing now, there's a very good likelihood that we'll get a reprieve on that. That may have been extinguished by the stimulus funds or by some other form of creative accounting, at which point we will ask no questions, and we will just thank people for not having to pay that back. So that we'll keep you posted on that one. Cash flow, while it's thin, it is stabilizing slowly, but we're still not able to do the things that we want to do. This is our goal for census. We're down now, as you saw in the beginning slide. I believe if we still have a shot at hitting 195, and that volume remains the key to success. We are looking at some new revenue sources where we've put a different rehabilitation director in place, and she's just getting started, and we have great hopes for her. We're looking at some new services, and the reason that we're doing this is because in skilled nursing, every other competitor has the same strategy. You have to have private pay and you have to have Medicare, and we need to do something different. So we are looking at some new services where we would be the only one in the area providing those services, and we have taken a different look at how we provide services, continuing to emphasize rehab. We can't get away from that, even though it's a trap. We talked earlier about the IGT rate. If you want to do some math, figure about 3,300 Medicaid days a month multiply that times 15, and that's the additional cash that would be coming through the organization. That's quite a bit of money. And it goes back to October of '09. Staff development is getting a lot of emphasis, particularly on supervision. Customer service is one thing where we want to do better. April scores were up, which was gratifying. Scores for March and February were just plain lousy, and they had to get better. And this is one of those things that we're not going to let up on it until it's where I want it. This year, we'd love to have some regulatory peace, and that's not going to happen if we don't do things like beef up our supervision and get on customer service. That's all interrelated. And in order to do better with expenses, we're looking at productivity in terms of systems and people. Objectives for 2011. Every time I appear before you, someone asks me how we're doing on accounts payable. You'll see in a minute. But we're not going to be able to get accounts payable down without getting some resolution to the intergovernmental transfer, and I hope that that is just around the corner. We would like nothing better than to establish cash reserves for operating contingencies. There are always operating contingencies, whether it's regulatory induced. Last year we just had to do a smoke barrier over, and that was not much of a regulatory consideration, but for us it was $100,000 that we didn't have. There's just no room to handle contingencies unless we get our cash balance up. We are spending more time improving our human resources development and training, and as Mary Ellen mentioned earlier, we're looking for better regulatory compliance. This is a swamp. This is a swamp, and a facility that tries to go it alone, I think, is into a lot of expense and a lot of frustration. So we're looking for a program that helps us get more towards compliance. The state and the feds are beefing up their efforts at recovering monies that they feel have been paid excessively, unnecessarily, and this is getting heightened scrutiny all across the country. It's not just here. So in a nutshell, here's where we are. You can see right now, through March 31, we're a little bit behind with a small loss. And if you add the depreciation back, we've got cash flow of about $200,000. At the end of March, we had about $720,000 in cash. That's not a lot of money. That's barely one payroll. That's barely one payroll. I'm sorry, that's barely 1 month worth of salary. Accounts receivable, $1.2 million. That's not too bad, and we're collecting those. But accounts payable is easily 2 times our cash, and that's we're asking. There's no way any organization can get that accounts payable down with this level of cash. That's why that IGT is so important, and that's why occupancy is so important. So again, census is critical for cash flow, resolving the intergovernmental agreement, the timing of extraordinary events such as unforeseen replacements of equipment or building repairs, and our ability to repay the short-term loan are the ingredients that are critical to cash flow. And I believe that is all that I have here. All right, so I'll turn it over to questions, sir.
Mr. Scavato, first of all, could you maybe say a little more about the IGT overpayment, because some of the county board members were not here when that happened?
Okay, the Reader's Digest version. When the intergovernmental transfer program first went into place, I want to say it was 2007, the state did the calculation wrong. And they included in the rate what is known as an add-on rate, which was, it was understandable how they did this because the add-on rate was in play at the time. That was caught on audit, and the counties were told that they would have to pay that back. So that's never been paid back. It's being held in abeyance right now, and the last word we had on this was that of the 28 counties, 27 were going to be exempted from that repayment requirement, and one, which is not Champaign, was going to be required to pay it back. I don't know the logic behind that, but I'm okay with it. Anyway, but that's the rationale.
Mr. Quisenberry.
Does the accounts payable that you listed up there include that IGT overpayment?
No, it does not. That we would book that as a liability on the balance sheet. So it's a big number. It's $350,000 or $400,000, and with a little bit of luck, we'll escape.
Mr. Alex.
Thank you. In your slide where you mentioned improved coding.
Yes.
Improved coding. Is that more aggressively seeking reimbursement for services we're already providing, or is that providing additional services?
The former, additional services. The biggest problem has been well documented. It's that most healthcare facilities, and we're no different, do a pretty poor job of claiming credit for what they're already doing. And that's what this represents.
Okay, so it's services.
I mean, there probably is some service expansion, but the bulk of that is a better job at our existing...
Getting paid for what we're already doing.
Getting credit for what we're already doing,
okay.
Correct.
And one other question. Can you speak to what efforts you're making to address the shortage of, or the vacancy rate among the nurses? Are you working with any local educational institutions or something to try to
Well, we
attract
do have
people
something going with is it Parkland College? But there is a chronic shortage of RNs in Champaign County, and we're doing good to get our unexcused, unscheduled absences down, and that allows us to drive our agency costs down.
But the vacancies, you're talking about open positions, not absenteeism, right?
Open positions,
okay.
Correct.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Mr. Kurtz.
Mrs. Scavato, you were talking earlier about some new type of programs, maybe outside the box for a nursing home to bring in new revenues. Can you delineate a little bit of what you meant?
Well, reorganizing the rehab service is one way. We're not aware of any other facility that's got a dedicated medical director for rehab, and we're looking at some more Alzheimer's support services, and we're looking at renal dialysis being provided at the institution.
On dialysis, is that through Medicare or Medicaid or both?
It would be both. It would be both. What would happen is that you would,
as well.
Pardon me?
And private pay as well.
Sure, we take private pay. They get it. What happens now, Alan, is that you get them. The residents come in and they have to be transferred all around. They have to be shuttled all around the community to get dialysis, and it's several hours out of their day. It's several hours out of our day. If we can provide that service in house, we score. Yeah.
I assume there's the capital expense to start that up is not insignificant?
It may be manageable.
Okay.
We're negotiating that with the program provider at this point. Yeah, but there are, you've got a new building that's been built out. The only issue is the water, the specialized water stations, and you may be in good shape on this one. So obviously that's a point of negotiation.
Further questions for either one of our people up here on the report? Ms. Ammons.
I have a couple. One, we didn't get a copy of this presentation. Can we have a copy of this presentation you gave tonight? Sent to the
We
board
can,
members?
yes. Deb has a copy.
And then the other is, with other revenue streams, and we are not making accounts payable at the present moment, meaning we have outstanding bills that we need to pay, where would the money come from to even start up any new service at all?
If we resolve the IGT, our cash flow improves. $15 at least per Medicaid day. That's the idea. If we don't have the cash, we're not in any position to spend it. We can't spend, but I am looking downstream a little bit, and I am anticipating that we'll be able to generate more cash, and how do we put it to work? And yes, we should reduce payables, but I wouldn't reduce payables completely. And you're always going to have some balance in payables. I would want to put some cash towards program development so we can generate some more revenues.
One is there's conversation on the federal level about cutting Medicaid, and if you have any information about how that's going to impact the nursing home. And the other is the presentation showed quite a bit of a deficit between the income revenue and the payables. How do you make that difference up?
I'll take your second question first, and I'd ask you to, I'm not sure I understand what you're getting at.
I think if you go back to your slide, I can just show you on your numbers. So okay, so on accounts payable, we have 1.6 plus, accounts receivable 1.2.
Right.
So where's the revenue to make up the difference for those payables that obviously services have been rendered, we need to pay it? Where does that money come from?
That money comes from this line right here. Cash flow from operations. Now that translates into cash on hand. As you get more revenue from additional volume, or hopefully from a resolution of the intergovernmental transfer, we'll see a change in this line, which will increase this line, which will give us more cash on hand. That's going to allow you to reduce this number. As your volume builds, you'll pick up more accounts receivable. We have to continue to collect those on an expeditious basis. If we don't have the cash, this number is going to continue. It's going to go up, or it's going to stay the same.
And how far out are we on payables right now?
I would say, I'm going to guess on this. I'm going to say that's approaching 90 days on the average. Don't quote me on that, please. It's an educated. I see you writing it down, and I hope next to it you've got educated guess.
Okay. Further questions?
I move the report be received and placed on file.
Second. Second by Mr. James. All in favor? Aye. All opposed? Motion approved. Okay, thank you. The next item is the unpaid contract, item 13B3. Mr. McGinty.
I recommend adoption of resolution number 7736, authorizing a contract with Management Performance Associates, Inc. for the Champaign County Nursing Home, and I so move.
Second. Second by Mr. Quisenberry. Discussion. Seeing none, all in favor? Aye. All opposed?
Aye.
Motion carries. Okay, under Highway and Transportation, Ms. Cowart.
Highway and Transportation has two things on the agenda. One is the adoption of resolution number 7732, authorizing the county board chair to sign an intergovernmental agreement with the city of Urbana for the improvement of Lincoln Avenue.
So moved. Second by Mr. Langenheim. Discussion.
Roll call.
I'll join in the request for a roll.
Okay, we'll have a roll call, but any discussion on this item? See none, roll call.
Esri?
No.
Holderfield?
Yes.
James?
No.
Jay?
No.
Jones?
Yes.
Kurtz?
Yes.
Langenheim?
Yes.
McGinty?
Yes.
Mosier?
No.
Nudo?
Yes.
O'Connor?
Yes.
Petrie?
No.
Quisenberry?
Yes.
Richards?
Yes.
Rosales?
Yes.
Sapp?
No.
Schrader?
Yes.
Alex?
Yes.
Ammons?
Yes.
Anderson?
Yes.
Benzel?
No.
Bergson?
Yes.
Betts?
Yes.
Carter?
Yes.
Cowart?
Yes.
Weibel?
Yes, motion carries.
The next item is the adoption of resolution number 7751 to deny America's Parking Remarking and Company a proposal for bidding on the 2011 pavement striping contract.
Second. Second by Mr. Benzel. You have a copy of this? It's the lilac cover. Mr. Blue is still here if you want him to discuss this. Seeing none, all in favor? Aye. All opposed? Motion carries.
There's nothing else for board action.
Thank you, Ms. Coward. Finance, Mr. McGinty.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I recommend adoption of resolution number 7734, purchases not following purchasing policy, and I so move.
Second by Ms. Coward. Discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries.
I recommend adoption of resolution number 7735, payment of claims authorization, and I so move.
Second.
Second by Ms. Bergson. Discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries.
And that is all from finance. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. McGinty. Next is policy, personnel, and appointments. Ms. Ammons.
We recommend adoption of ordinance number 885, establishing the Champaign County 2011 apportionment plan.
Moved by Ms. Cowart. Point out that, I'm sorry? Yeah, moved by Ms. Ammons, second by Ms. Cowart. That a revised ordinance is in the blue handout. The major addition was there was a paragraph stating what the county board chair's salary is. It's not a change. And also makes a reference to ordinance 866, which is the map. Mr. James.
I'd like to make a motion to amend the resolution.
Okay.
On page 59, or on the first page of our revised, on the fifth whereas, as you read through it and you get down to the $45 for all special meetings to include, I would like my motion to strike agenda preparation meetings for chairs and vice chairs as being paid.
Is that it?
For now.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Sapp. Discussion. Oh, sorry. Mr. O'Connor.
If it pleases the chairman, I'd like to call the question. We know how everybody's going to vote. They had their mind made up when they walked in, so we just will save ourselves further embarrassment from discussing this any further.
Pardon? Yeah, we can't call the question because we're working in the middle of an amendment. So discussion. Okay, you're referring to call the question on the amendment. Is that what you want, Mr. Connor, or on the main motion?
The main.
I'm sorry, you're out of order. Mr. James.
Well, the reason I'm asking for it to be stricken is I feel that by being a chair, to get paid to sit there, and I spoke to Mr. Betts about this, and I know the first time around he was adamant that he felt that it wasn't right that coming in and doing that duty was justifiably to be paid. I feel that's something that goes with the chair of the committee. You have some authority there. Basically, it's something that just goes with the duties, and to be paid for a meeting, then plus to be paid to do an agenda preparation. When I look at some of the agendas, and speaking back to some of the committee agendas, when we have one or two items, it just seems unfair to me that we're going to pay two people $45 each to sit there and say, well, let's put these two items on an agenda.
Further discussion. Mr. Richards.
Well, I set agendas by email. I wasn't actually aware that we could do this now, but it seems...
Actually, we cannot do it now. It's proposed to do it in the future.
That's what I meant with the amendment. But it seems to me that there would be times for some agendas that it would be enough work, and it would be enough that the person would be doing that this is something that we should leave in.
Further discussion. Mr. Sapp.
Well, at the committee of the whole, I had kind of asked for status quo. That didn't go through, and there was amendment then for $60 from the 80. So I guess I would ask Mr. James if he would be accepting, so we only have to vote on one amendment to include in his amendment the reduction of the $80 per meeting to $60.
Very fine with that.
I'm going to rule that out of order because that's really a different matter. I think we should do that separately, Mr. Sapp.
Okay, thank you.
Well, I spoke to you. Thank you, Jerry.
Further discussion on the amendment by Mr. James, which is to strike out the line agenda preparation meetings for chairs and vice chairs. Okay.
Roll call, please.
Okay, roll call.
Mr. Chair, can we have clarification? Yes means to strike it, no means to
That's
leave it.
correct. Yes means to strike it, no means to keep it as is.
Thank you.
Esri?
Yes.
Holderfield?
Yes.
James?
Yes.
Jay?
Yes.
Jones?
Yes.
Kurtz?
Yes.
Langenheim?
No.
McGinty?
Yes.
Mosier?
Yes.
Nudo?
Yes.
O'Connor?
Yes.
Petrie?
No.
Quisenberry?
Yes.
Richards?
No.
Rosales?
Yes.
Sapp?
Yes.
Schrader?
Yes.
Alex?
Yes.
Ammons?
No.
Anderson?
Yes.
Benzel?
Yes.
Perksen?
No.
Betts?
Yes.
Carter?
Yes.
Cowart?
Yes.
Weibel?
Yes, motion carries. Now back to the main motion that's been amended. Just
Call
missed-
the question.
Mr. Sapp.
I'm sorry, sir. Again, I'm not going to belabor it. I argued before to keep
No, I'm
it.
sorry, I did not recognize Mr. O'Connor. You cannot interrupt. Mr. Sapp, continue.
Would ask for one more amendment to this before it moves forward,
Yes.
and that is
No,
to
it's
change
not
from
interruptible.
$80
You cannot interrupt.
per
Right.
meeting to $60 per meeting.
So
Second.
you want to reduce 80 to 60, same
Yes.
paragraph, correct?
Yes, sir.
It's moved and seconded by Ms. Holderfield. Discussion. Any discussion? We got one call for a roll call. Is there another?
Second.
Okay. Roll call, please.
Esri?
Yes.
Holderfield?
Yes.
James?
Yes.
Jay?
Yes.
Jones?
Yes.
Kurtz?
No.
Langenheim?
No.
McGinty?
Yes.
Mosier?
Yep.
Nudo?
Yes.
O'Connor?
Yes.
Petrie?
No.
Quisenberry?
Yes.
Richards?
No.
Rosales?
No.
Sapp?
Yes.
Schrader?
Yes.
Alex?
Yes.
Ammons?
No.
Anderson?
No.
Benzel?
Yes.
Berkson?
No.
Betts?
No.
Carter?
No.
Cowart?
No.
Weibel?
No. Motion carries. Okay, back to the main motion with that amendment. Further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
Aye.
Motion carries. examined. Second item?
That's good. Second item, adopting resolution number 7733, amending the county.
Second by Ms. Kohler. Discussion. Mr. Alex.
I would like, if I could ask the chair to describe the procedure by which the determination would be made whether there would be 2 or 3 committee of the whole meetings necessary at a given month.
What I generally do is I sort of look to the heavy hitters first, like policy, ELUC, even though sometimes policy can be light, but I can go to them early on, particularly ELUC and also policy. We know how many appointments we have every month just about, and look at other issues. And generally I will meet with that chair of that area or the department head as appropriate, or to actually talk to them and don't necessarily meet with them, and also meet with Ms. Busey, and we'll decide early on, can we cancel one of the meetings? This is what we did with committees, and we'll try to do that in the future. Would you like to add to that? I mean our procedural how we do it. Sometimes we'll see if we have something we can delay it a month. We'll say we'll do it next month, because not everything needs to be timely.
Administratively, I think that could be problematic because you have 2 committees assigned to each of the 3 evenings. And so you have department heads, you have officials who have to report and bring items to these committee meetings. And I think anticipating that you'll say, well, this month policy is light, so we'll put it with justice and we'll move highway to facilities and finance. I don't know how that is going to work for the people who have to be present at your meetings to report to you. Additionally, we have deadlines established for every committee of the whole meeting wherein those who are bringing items to you have to have them submitted by the deadline. And if I just procedurally would foresee a problem with, when we used to have 1 committee a night, if a committee didn't have agenda items, we could cancel that committee meeting and for that month, and it was not a big issue. But when you have 2 committees scheduled for each of the evenings, I don't think it's going to be that easy to change the schedule.
We'll have less flexibility because we're doing two committees. But again, we'll try it.
I guess I'm a little concerned. I think, and I know that a number of the members of the Democratic caucus, at least, who were supportive of this idea of the 3 committee of the whole meetings, felt rather strongly that we should endeavor to only have 2 if the volume of business only warranted there being 2. And I think what I'm hearing tonight is that, Pius, you think we can probably do that, and Deb, you're less sure. So I'm wondering if this is something that's quite ready for prime time.
I think, as far as, discussing the matter anymore is not going to do much. We really need to try it out. That's all we need to do, in my opinion.
I'd be interested to hear what the other board members have to say about that. Thank you.
Mr. James?
Well, my problem is when we're looking at the schedule, we're going to have a meeting on a Tuesday night and then thereafter on a Thursday night of the same week. Some of us do have jobs, some of us do have families, and when we're meeting 2 nights a week out of 5 days, as I like to call my work week, that's a lot of time taken away from me if I have any other activities, whether they be at school or out doing what I normally do, working. But I just think that we're going to cram a lot of time in there, and I already say it all the time that we're not doing justice to certain subject matter when we bring it up because everybody's tired. And I just see that when we have 2 meetings that close together, we need to really look at this and really think about what we're doing. And I liked before that we had the option of a 3rd meeting if it was needed, whether it be with ELUC or highway or whoever, because then after we have our 3rd meeting on the following Thursday, I think it is, if I read this right, then we're going to have a county board meeting the next week after that. And that's, when you really look at it, that's taking up a lot of time to do any planning if you have any family matters to attend to. And like me, I like to be at these meetings because I think that's what I was elected to do. I try to be here on time and I try to attend. But we start cramming all that in, I think it's going to be hard on some of us to make those meetings. Thank you.
Mr. Jay?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm actually opposed to the third meeting period. When you look at the time frame that this information is given to us, there have been a few lengthy meetings, but for the most part, it isn't that bad. And yes, Stan, some of us get tired, but some of you come tired to start with, so it makes no difference. But I really don't think it really justifies another meeting, a third committee meeting of a whole.
Mr. McGinty?
I concur with Mr. Jay. When I first thought about, and Carol presented this, the concept of 3 meetings to expand conversation, I thought that was a good concept. It doesn't mean that I still don't, but this chart that illustrates from the beginning of 2010 till now that our average meeting length is just a tad over 2.5 hours, and that we have yet to break, and let's try not to do it tonight, the 4-hour mark. That's what we're here for. And if we can do that in 2, I think that is reasonable. With that, though, I think that it's not unreasonable to send this back to Cal and consider it further. Chair Weibel, unfortunately, I disagree that we've beat this totally to death, because with this new information, I think it's worth discussion to see if we can fine-tune this, because there are some unanswered questions, as Mr. Alex has alluded to. I move that we defer this till the next Cal.
Would you like to say, send this back to committee? It sounds like what you're really trying to say.
For the appropriate committee, yes,
Okay, so
policy. Thank you.
Turn it back to committee. The second by Mr. James. Discussion on that motion. Mr. Quisenberry.
Yes, I am supportive of the concept of expanding time for us to go into issues in the COW, and I have been supportive of this proposal from the beginning, basically. But I'm a little bit concerned about the logistics of the optional meeting, and I would like to see that fleshed out a little bit better before we put it into place. I am concerned about the public and their access to what we're doing here. There is a certain amount of consistency to how we address things. I know we push committees back and forth on the rare occasion, but I think I agree with Mr. McGinty and feel like we need to have a little more talk on how this would work logistically.
Mr. Noodle?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. On your desk is also some items from Robert's Rules of Order and the County Board rules, which I think demand re-emphasis on all committee chairs.
Point of order.
That's exactly what I thought was going to happen.
Point of order. Well, Mr. Noodle, are you done?
No, I am
What's
not.
the point of
I'm
order?
always getting called out.
The point of order is on the motion to send it back to the committee, not new information.
I would
that's
concur. We're on
this
the
board.
whether to send it back to committee or now. Let me think. Oh, it's sort of a gray area there. Well, I guess.
Well, the reason to take it back...
Go ahead. Microphone, please.
Thank you. The reason to take it back to committee, I have some reasons. And my basic statement is, before we go to a third meeting, we have to clean up what we need to do with our 2 meetings in terms of rules and regulations. Frequently, we have committee heads who make statements about their positions on it, and it's clear here that, as Mr. Weibel has done in the past, he's left the chair, he's made a statement, and it's clear in the Roberts Rules of Order that he cannot go back until that issue is voted on. We have frequently had, in the last few months, committee chairs who use it as a bully pulpit for their positions. It is not in the Roberts Rules of Order, and somebody needs to enforce that. And we will speed up meetings when we do that. The same holds true with 2 times per member speaking. We have it twice, once in the Roberts Rules and County Board rules. We don't enforce it. And I think it's time, if we want to clean up and have shorter meetings, we need to run a meeting like all governmental bodies run, and be clear about that. If we need the parliamentarian or the chair to be called out of order, that's what we need to do. But at this stage, I am not in favor of a third meeting until we clean up our act. Thank you.
Mr. Quisenberry, have you spoken this yet? Okay. Mr. Langenheim. Microphone, please. This is a motion to send back to committee.
I'm opposed to sending it back to the committee or deferring judgment. We've been talking about this for several months now, and I think we've all reached our conclusions as what should be done. We're not likely to change that opinion in the near future, so I think we should just go ahead and vote it up or down.
Ms. Holderfield.
I don't think we've talked about it enough, personally. I think that, there's some disagreement that we've already heard that having a third meeting is just going to cause logistically with getting information to all of us on the county board for all of our committee meetings, for our department heads. I think we're hearing that there's some struggle that's going on with making sure, if we're going to have 3 meetings, 3 COW meetings, we want to make sure that all of the information is given to all of us in a timely manner, and I think that's going to be next to impossible. I think that we should review the Roberts rules. I think we should be conducting meetings that are guidelines that have been given to us that will benefit all of us in the long run if we're utilizing rules that are already in place, and we're not. And so I do believe that we should send it back, and I believe that in that committee, they should come up with another plan. I personally appreciate when we do have a strategic planning meeting, if there are items that are taking longer.
I rise to a point of order. The discussion of Robert's Rules of Order is not germane to the question of returning this to the committee.
Mr. Holderfield, you're wandering off on questions if we should send this back to committee or not.
If we take it back to committee, I think we'll have a more effective opportunity to ensure whether or not we need 3 meetings a month for CAL.
Ms. Bergson. Microphone, please.
Since we have now the option of adding a meeting, which seems to be much easier than subtracting a meeting, anytime there is a heavy agenda, we could add a meeting or a study session.
Actually, if I can clarify that, it's not that simple. We have to have, unless it's a study session, we have to have 9 members sign a petition to actually add an official meeting. So we can do it, but it's not, you can't just wave a magic wand to do that. Although we could change the rules to do that. Does that make sense? Do you understand?
Yeah.
Okay. Mr. Alex.
I will support the motion to defer for the reason that I think having the 3 committee meetings available is still a very good idea, but I am concerned that we need to figure out how to do it. And I came in tonight fully prepared to support it, but some of the comments that were made in caucus don't really square with what I'm hearing here. So I think it's worth having one more bite at the apple here to decide whether we can go with 3 meetings, 2/3 meetings, or whether we're stuck with 3 meetings if we vote for 3 meetings.
Mr. Carter.
Yeah. I would like to see us go back to the committee form of government and be done with it.
I understand, Mr. Carter, but we're not talking about that tonight. The motion is to send it back to committee.
Point of order on that one? Or just me?
Mr. Richards.
I am against deferring this and sending this back to committee for the reason that I don't see why those saying that we should discuss this more don't just kill this motion and have that discussion tonight.
Second motion.
Further discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
Aye.
Motion fails.
Division.
Mr. Quisenberry calls for division. Okay, show of hands, please, for supporting it.
Defer, motion to defer?
Yes, yes.
Back to committee for deferral.
Send it back to committee. Show of hand, please. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13.
You had your hand up, 14.
Show of hands again. Let's see, show of hands again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. Tied. So it's main motion is still on the floor. Further discussion? See none? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
Aye.
Motion fails.
Show of hands.
I think that's pretty obvious. It failed. You gonna call it? Okay, show of hands.
I'm sorry, for what?
Okay, hold on. Show of hands for yes if you want this motion to come through, which should go from 2 meetings to 3. So show of hands, yes for that.
To change it to 3?
Yes, change it to 3. Show of hands, change it to 3. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7.
Failed.
Failed. All right. That's it for policy. Okay, next item up is,
Chair Wyman,
yes, Ms. Kohler?
what are we doing? Sending it back to committee?
No, it failed. The resolution failed.
Done. You guys wanted it.
Okay, item 14A, consider a motion regarding one of the set of maps for the new redistricting, new districts for the county for the, starting the year 2012. Is there a motion?
Is this, we can make a motion at this point?
Yes.
I move adoption of NAACP Map B
Second.
from the Redistricting Commission.
Moved by Ms. Amons, second by Mr. Quisenberry. Discussion. Mr. Noodle, you wanted, okay. Any discussion on that? NAACP Plan B.
Why are we not discussing on
Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
Aye.
Motion carries.
What? Yeah, no.
Do you want to see show of hands?
No.
Show of hands, all those approved, raise your hand. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. Don't need to call for opposing, it carries.
Move approval of the closed session minutes.
The action is, I'll point out that correction here. Ms. Amons, but the action item you did was Ms. Amons, you were approving ordinance 866. I want to point that out. Sorry.
Mr. Chairman, I can't hear you, please.
Okay. The item that Ms. Amons moved and it was seconded is item 886. Just to clarify that, we will fill in the blank with NAACP Map Plan B.
Move approval of the closed session minutes.
Second by Ms. Amons for approval of the closed session minutes. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Aye. Motion carries.
Move adjournment.
We're adjourned.